High prices are a burden for the American people. But the recent past need not be prologue. I am pleased to report that members of the FOMC are unambiguous and unanimous. This committee will deliver price stability.
That is Kevin Warsh speaking yesterday after leading his first meeting as chairman of the Federal Reserve. The Fed voted unanimously, as he said there, to keep rates unchanged for the fourth consecutive meeting. But with inflation at a three-year high, board members were split on what the central bank might do in the future, with half signaling support for a rate hike later this year. Let's bring in former Treasury official, Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner, with charts looking at the Federal Reserve's meeting yesterday. Steve, good morning. Always great to see you with the charts. So Kevin Warsh installed by President Trump as someone he hoped would cut rates. Kevin Warsh did not cut rates. He was not alone. It was a unanimous vote on that board. So let's start first by looking at the state of the economy, which may give us some hints as to where the Fed could go next.
Yeah, Willie, that's exactly the point. The president wanted a Fed chairman who would cut rates. He was lambasted the previous chairman for not cutting rates, and he didn't get what he wanted yesterday, and he made a few comments about that as well. But let's look at why. There are really two reasons. First is inflation. As you saw in that clip, he emphasized the importance of price stability, or at least very low inflation for American consumers. But, of course, that's not what's been happening, particularly since the war. These are three measures of inflation. I'm not going to get into the details of each of them. But this is what consumers see, 4.2%, including those higher gas prices. Since the war began, it shot up. This is the measure that the Fed likes to look at, and it's at 3.3%. Relative to the Fed's target of 2% down here. So this is why Kevin Warsh is so emphatic about prices. The other thing that's going on, which is interesting, is we've now had 3 strong months of job creation, averaging close to 200,000 jobs a month, compared to very flat and even down jobs earlier in the year. So the economy is showing more strength than expected, which doesn't augur for rate cuts, plus the inflation, which argues for rate increases.
All right, we have to have, Steve, as you move to your second chart, President Trump reacting to the news that the rates would not be cut. Let's take a look.
Did you see the Fed decision? They held rates today. Did you see that?
It's all right. Whatever.
And it looks like they might even raise them later this year. It's not clear. Do you have any comment?
It could happen. I mean, it's hard to believe. It just keeps the country down, you know. So it's so unusual. But we have a very good guy over there now, so I'm guided by what he wants.
It's not that unusual, is it, Steve, given the state of the economy, to keep rates where they are?
No, that's the weird thing. The president doesn't really seem to grasp some elements of basic economics. When inflation is too high, you have to raise interest rates to bring it down. That's just simply the way it all works. And so here's what people are looking at. The Fed has been holding rates steady for the last few months at 3.6%. At the previous meeting back in March, the members of the FOMC expected rates to come down. Everybody expected rates to come down, as they had been. But with the war and the upsurge in inflation, that's not what we're looking at now. The committee thinks rates are going to go up by the end of the year. You probably can't see all these little dots, but the committee was actually quite divided about it. But nonetheless, rates on average are expected to go up. The market actually is even more pessimistic. It doesn't think they're going to be, it thinks the rate increase will be larger, and it doesn't think there are going to be any cuts. The FOMC does believe we'll start to get cuts out in 2027 and 28, but much less than what they thought back at the March meeting. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at there. Now, inflation, the FOMC also believes is still going to stay higher for longer. This is what they believed last December, inflation coming down there. This is what they believed in March, inflation coming down there. This is what they now believe, which is actually not much change at all in inflation in 2027, and then a much more gradual decline. So what are consumers looking at? They're looking at higher prices for longer, and they're looking at higher rates for longer, none of which is making the president happy and doesn't make any of us happy, but that's the reality.
So, Steve, as you move to your next chart about the Fed that is inherited by the new chairman, Kevin Warsh, can you speak just a little bit about Kevin Warsh himself? I've talked to a lot of people on Wall Street say he's a pretty conventional economic thinker, worked at Morgan Stanley for a number of years. And by that, I just mean he's not some wild-eyed choice that Donald Trump has chosen in other places across the government.
Yeah, that's a great point, Willie. To the president's credit, Kevin Warsh was probably the best qualified of the candidates that he was looking at. But he is, as you say, a very traditional economist. He was what we call a hawk, meaning that he believed inflation was something that the Fed had to focus on relentlessly and get inflation down. The president wanted what we call a dove, somebody who wants to cut rates. He thought he had it in Kevin Warsh, but not so much. But here's what Kevin Warsh is up against. If Kevin Warsh is facing not double-digit inflation, but the highest inflation any new Fed chairman has faced going back a long time. This is Alan Greenspan back in 1987. And then you had Janet Yellen and Jay Powell, whose challenge was actually to get inflation up. But this is what Warsh is looking at. And so he's got a tough job, and we're going to see how it unfolds. And he's also got a 12-member committee he's got to make happy. One thing that, as you saw, Kevin Warsh doesn't want to do is communicate too much. He believes, and I won't get into the yins and yangs of the debate about this among financial people, of how much the Fed should say, but he wants the Fed to say less. These are the statements made by the average statement length by Fed chair. And you can see that under Janet Yellen went all the way up to 604 words, came down a bit under Jay Powell. As I said, they were trying to get prices up. Kevin Warsh, 132 words. So he's a man of fewer words, which is okay as long as he achieves his goal of getting inflation down.
Might not be the worst thing these days. Fewer words. We'll see where they go next. At Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner. Steve, thanks so much as always. We appreciate it. So, Jonathan Lemire, we heard a little bit of frustration from President Trump there on the tarmac yesterday. He thought he had a guy in Kevin Warsh who might do his bidding and cut the rates, but Kevin Warsh, as was just laid out by Steve, is a traditional economic thinker. We got to bring inflation down. That means for now leaving them flat and then signaling maybe they're going to go up before they ever come down.
I'll follow Kevin Warsh's lead and keep this brief. Trump won't like that. Yes, this is. I think he'll get a little bit of space here. You know, Trump really a lot of political capital to push Warsh in. We know the investigations that went into Jerome Powell trying to force him out. He's got his guy. He's going to be patient for a couple of months, maybe. But I certainly wouldn't expect beyond that. And people I talked to yesterday after that moment echoed within the administration, echoed that yes, Trump eventually, sooner than later, pre-midterms, is going to want to see those rates come down. We'll see if Warsh is going to have independence required to say no if he thinks that's the right decision.
And again, the signal is they're going to go up, not down next time. We'll see.